Okay, so this tweet went around, started a lot of discourse, a lot of great, wonderful conversations on Twitter, on streamer Twitter. Millionaire streamer Hassan Piker claims that, quote, a real job doesn't suck the soul out of you in the same way that streaming absolutely will. Let's listen in.
Yes, a real job can be gruesome. A real job can make you very tired, but a real job doesn't suck the soul out of you. You know what I mean? In the same way that 9 hours of streaming absolutely will.
Okay, obviously people did not have a great time with this clip. Has Hassan ever had a job other than streaming? Yes. He, immediately before this, and actually during streaming, he was a commentator for the Young Turks, which is like a online news org. So he did desk job stuff, scripted content, and did that. He has stated that he previously also worked in sales. So he has had jobs prior to this. Now, this clip, people got really upset about because I think everyone would agree that there's plenty of jobs. In fact, most jobs are soul-sucking because you're, first of all, not your own boss. You're like, yes, you're working 40 hours a week. So this is the thing. There are pros and cons, right? There are pros and cons to streaming versus what a real job entails, which again, I don't know how we're defining that. We'll just say like a traditional job, I guess, is probably a better term than real job, because if we keep saying real job, then we're saying that streaming isn't a real job, and streaming is definitely a real job. And there was a lot of commentary about that on Twitter, like whether it's like basically disqualifying streaming as like not being a real job, or minimizing the things that creators have to do. And let's just start off this discussion with, let's do a little disclaimer before we get into this discussion, okay? I am acknowledging that streaming is a privileged job. It is a awesome job. It is really cool. It has a lot of perks. It's something that a lot of people would love to be able to do. It's like really fortunate to be able to be a full-time creator. It is. A lot of people would definitely give up their desk job or their, labor intensive job or their boring job to do streaming and content creation. In fact, many people out there strive to try to make that happen. Some folks do both. Some people juggle full-time jobs and trying to be a creator. Let's just get that like disclaimer out of the way. Okay, because I don't want people coming in here and being like, you have such a good job, why are you complaining? And I think that's like the just first problem we need to iron out here, because every job has things that are worth complaining about. Like even like a famous singer, right, or actress, or a famous F1 driver or football player or whatever, they probably have things about their job that they don't really like or that is very challenging for them. And I feel like we should be able to, like, when that's your job, you should be able to like have things to complain about, right? Like, I mean, shouldn't we be allowed to complain, right? I mean, we talked about this at the beginning of the stream, but it's essentially, to me, like the energy is like very much like just having to compete for like the worst job or the worst situation. And everyone's personal experience is going to be different. And many people want to commentate about this situation without even having done it, and they don't know what it's like. And again, I acknowledge that streaming and being a full-time creator is definitely a privilege. It's definitely has more ups than downs. But I think it's like kind of toxic to berate someone for having things that they complain about and for having aspects of the jobs they don't really like. The things that I don't like about streaming is, first of all, that it is way more than a 40-hour-a-week job. It is not a clock in and clock out and you don't think about your job. It is a little bit obsessive. It's 24/7. You're always thinking about content. There's always things to do. You're always behind. It is overwhelming to be a full-time creator. That can really wear you down. There's a lot of burnout that happens. A lot of creators really struggle with getting burnt out. There's also like the anxiety that gets induced from like, feeling like you have to always be on, and having to create, and everything you do in life somehow has to turn into like a piece of content, which is then just feels like work. Even for people who play video games. Like, I played video games full time for 8 years. I streamed 6 to 7 hours a day. And that's really only the tip of the iceberg, is like sitting and playing video games. And yeah, honestly, that part is easy. Like, playing video games and having fun is the easiest part of the job. And it is the smallest proportion of time that you probably spend, because there's so much that goes into creating and planning and building out your stream and your alerts and the events and integrations and the community building aspect. And I mean, there's a million other things that go into what you see on camera. It is a production, right? As a streamer, you are the talent, you're the manager, you're the producer, you're the editor, you're the writer. You know, you do all of the things, you're the director. It's a lot of things. Again, streaming is a very fortunate thing, and I love it. And like, I would not have replaced my journey for anything else. Being able to be your own boss is fantastic. That being said, I know people that don't like that responsibility or don't handle that responsibility well. They'd actually prefer to have structure and direction. And streaming isn't for everyone. And streaming is definitely not easy. If streaming were easy and being successful were easy, wouldn't everyone do it? Like, why would you be working a hard job? Why wouldn't you just quit and work the easy job that is streaming, right? Like, it's easy to watch it happen live, but then not think about the things that go into it. And even someone like Hasan, who, you know, he gets a lot of criticism, and it's honestly, I do understand that it doesn't come across well when it's someone like Hasan, because he is very wealthy, he's very popular, you know, he's very, very, very successful. He is not the top 1%, the top 0.1% of creators who really make it and become super successful doing this. And so when someone like him complains that it's draining or it sucks your soul out, it's never going to come across well, because it's like, oh man, sorry, why don't you wipe your tears with your millions of dollars and your nice fancy mansion? I mean, I definitely get why people can, you know, criticize, you know, someone who is in a very, very fortunate position and has one moment on stream where, you know, he talks about the draining aspect. Is it more draining than other jobs? Is it less draining? I think it's draining in just a certain way. A lot of people went to compare this to like a labor-intensive job, and most of you don't do labor-intensive jobs. And if you do, definitely hats off. There's also mentally draining jobs and socially draining jobs as well. I think those are just as valid. They just, you know, take a toll on your body in a different way. You want more context, okay? I see more context. So let's get more context. What was this 20-second clip a part of? We got 2 minutes of additional context. So here we go.
No. Social battery wise, unless you're in retail, it's very different. You're out of touch. I'm gonna die, dude. There's motherfuckers who are accountants in here, and they're misunderstanding what I'm saying. A real job does not expend your social battery in the same way as someone who did a sales job, a real job. Okay, I'm telling you, as someone who did both.
I don't know why the clip is desynced. I don't know.
Of constant performance and people pleasing taps you out from social scenarios. After 9 hours of that, I could probably do physical labor. It would not bother me, but I can't do more social shit. That's my point. There are obviously real jobs out there that are good comparisons. Service sector, people pleasing jobs would be very similar. Those are like, I think, customer service type shit. But like, if you're an accountant, or if you're even like in sales, my interactions with clients was limited, way more limited than like constantly having to do this for 9 hours with like a back and forth interaction for 9 hours. That's what like sucks your social battery, and you just tap out after it. Yeah, think about it this way. Like, you give presentations for your job, right? Imagine giving a presentation for 9 hours straight. It's like, after a while, you would be like, I don't want to talk ever again.
Okay, so that provided a little bit more context. I think that the last part was like a really good comparison. It is it's the social drain. And I definitely have said this before, and I've definitely said this on stream, where it's like after my stream, like I don't want to talk to anyone, right? Like, and so that's specifically what he's talking about. Using the terms like soul sucking, that I think can apply to most jobs. Like the fact that we have to work so much in order to exist on this planet is, to me, just inherently wrong. And it's just like a total, especially in the US, it's just like a very negative and draining culture. But he's just like, he's just talking specifically about one aspect of streaming that is a drain. And it is the like having to perform, right? Like performing a show for, he usually streams like what, 9, 10, sometimes 12 hours. And also he does a lot of he does react content, but he also does a lot of like political commentary that I cannot relate to, because I can barely even consume political content, let alone talk about it and have to explain things and, you know, debate chat on things and have like, you know, intellectual conversations, breakdowns, talking points. People say, oh, it must be so draining to play video games all day. Hasan doesn't play video games all day. Like it's not only the fact that you're talking and like, yeah, it's like putting on a presentation. It's putting on a show. You're putting on a show for 10 hours straight. But also like it's a very draining topic, not only for you to have to like, you know, use your brain at a high level the whole time, but also just the emotional drain that it takes on having to consume such negative content. Like talking about the world these days, again, most of us can barely digest even acknowledging what's happening in the world these days. Everything happening everywhere. To me, this is like a moment of, he's not saying like he wants to quit, guys. Like he's not saying like he's like done with streaming and hates his job. Like it's not like he's saying he hates doing this. It was just one moment of having like, of talking about a negative aspect of what he does. And I just don't feel, I feel like that should not be taboo to do. Again, I guess, you know, he has to, you know, issue the disclaimer like, okay, I love this. I'm privileged. I acknowledge that. Like, this is a great job, but here's one negative aspect. My streams these days are not playing video games. When I did stream video games, I could definitely stream longer without it being so draining. But nowadays, when I do my stream, I'm streaming like 3 hours, and I find it really hard for me personally to bounce back, like, and to do other work, and to like, it takes me a bit to decompress after a stream. You're reading so many messages. You're having to, again, put on a talk show that's not scripted. I'm not just reading lines. I'm having to move on the fly and talk about, you know, serious things. I hope that makes more sense. And he says, it's wild how this completely out of context clip made its way to Twitter so fast. I was talking about how much a 9-hour stream eats away at my social battery and how I can't socialize after, comparing it to my sales job before. And also, let's think about this. Everybody's different. Some people can stream 10 hours a day and be fine. And they do that every day. Some streamers can play one game for years at a time and be fine. Some people never burn out. Some people burn out frequently. Some people don't like streaming at all. They try streaming and they're like, this is not for me. Everyone responds to conditions differently. Hasan has been streaming for years. He streams, I don't know, usually what, 6-7 days a week? Streams long hours, does a lot of political commentary. I definitely could not do what he does. I don't have the battery for that, for even doing what he, like, getting to that point. Again, some people can. Some people would find that to be easy. But you can also just go and do it and see how you feel. Again, it's not, I would say it's probably more draining to have tens of thousands of people spamming your chat, people with bad takes, people memeing, like trying to sift through a lot of noise to try to pull out talking points and respond to people. It's probably more draining at a higher level because there's more going on. But yes, I mean, again, streaming as a job is a privilege. We acknowledge that. That is also true. The two things can be true. There was, so there have been a couple of memes just based on this. And this is a good one. Bro had to go see what the fuss was all about. There's a picture of Hasan working at like a gas station or something. I don't know what this is from. I don't know if this was like a IRL stream or what, or is this photoshopped? I think it's photoshopped, maybe. I don't know. I don't know. But I think a streamer at this level comes across as petty when expressing his opinion like this, of course. And I've said like why, right? Because he is very rich and wealthy and set, and of course. But again, he is streaming 9 hours, and when you're just hanging out and you're streaming, you're talking, and you're just streaming is a live platform, so it's not scripted, it's not planned out, and sometimes you're just gonna take a second to like talk about your job, maybe talk about an aspect of the job that's not so great. Is it gonna come across well to most people? No. But is it just a reality? Yes. I don't think that makes him a bad person. It's just like, I don't know. I've definitely complained about aspects of streaming like to y'all before. I mean, I'm not gonna get clipped and canceled for it because I don't have many viewers compared to him, but realistically, there are things about streaming that suck. There's things about streaming that are harder than other jobs. There are things about streaming that are easier than other jobs. Streaming is a job. At his level, he should have taken a moment and asked how this is going to come across. But I don't think he really cares because people are going to just take it the wrong way anyways. Yeah, like people do this to him all the time. If he were to think about what he said every time he said it, then he would probably not say much. Because people are always going to take something out of context, take a bad moment, and it doesn't really affect him. Like, I mean, there's probably ways of like, he probably doesn't enjoy the discourse and seeing, you know, everyone shitting him or whatnot, but like it doesn't affect his career. The fact that others have it worse doesn't necessarily mean someone doesn't have problems. Yes, this was another. So Hasan's, you know, making light of it. This tweet, this classic oil rig thing. It's like, what's harder than this? He says Twitch streaming. Classic. Making fun of the whole situation, because again, like, who cares? Like, most people that are commenting about it are people who either hate him and want to jump on it, or they don't know what it's like, or they want to just complain about one specific part. I mean, it's Twitter. Like, you can't take Twitter too seriously. That's my thoughts. But honestly, what bothers me more is when people don't think that streaming is like not a lot of work. That's what bothers me. And that's what I saw going around Twitter, and that annoyed me so much. Is like, streaming is a glorious job, but it is still a job, and there's still a lot of things that you have to do, and that bothers me more than just like this clip and people being like, oh, he's so, you know, he's rich, who cares? Like, why is he complaining? Shut up and stream. I hate when people like just diminish what it takes to become a streamer. And people are like, oh, he just sits and plays games all days. It must be so hard. That bothers me. Cause like, like, you clearly don't know. And then on top of the streaming is a hard discourse, is then the streaming as a woman isn't hard. Yes. As a woman, you have it so much easier. Yes. Oh my God. Yeah. And then, oh God.